Okay guys, I've done it. I created a plugin for Node-RED that allows you guys to talk to GPT with reasonable ease. You don't need to write any custom code, debug functions, none of that foolishness. Nope, nope, nope. Up until this point, I've been testing it out and trying to make it easier to use, and some of you have started to notice them in my recent videos. So in this video, I'm going to go over how to use the AI intent plugins and what to expect from it. So first things first, this video assumes that you 1. Know about Node-RED, have Node-RED integrated into Home Assistant, and 3. Have some basic proficiency in how to use Node-RED. Now if you're missing at least one of these above prerequisites, there are links in the description to get you better acquainted with Node-RED, as well as how to install it for Home Assistant. Okay, so let's talk setup. AI Intent is a middleman between OpenAI and your system. It provides an easy interface for you to use and does all the heavy lifting behind the scenes to construct the payload required by OpenAI. As a result, you're going to need to get an API token for this to work from OpenAI. So go to the platform.openai.com, create an account, click on API keys, create a new secret key, and copy this value. You're going to need it. Now, the next part of this is going to vary depending on how you have Node-RED installed into your system, but what you're going to need to find is the settings.js file. Now, if you have Node-RED installed via Home Assistant integration, you can find this file using Studio Code Server plugin. Look for Node-RED, and you should see the settings.js file in that folder. So if you have Node-RED installed via a Docker container, just look for where your Docker is mounting your files. And then within there, you can find the settings.js file under the data folder. Okay, so inside the settings.js file, you're going to look for the function global context. And inside that object, you're going to put in the following key value pair. This is where you're going to want to paste your token. Okay, so save the file, and now go inside Node-RED, the actual application, click on the hamburger menu, manage palettes, click on the install tab. In the search bar, type in Technenthusiast. It should be the only plugin there, and install it. Once installed, restart Node-RED.
Hey, really quick, I just want to call out a brand new method for adding in the OpenAI token, which is basically the ability to add the token through the chat node configuration. Now, the major benefit of this is that it's considerably easier to add this token and get started. The downside to this is that if you want to share your automations, your API token will be included in the JSON. So just watch out for that. I do want to give a special thanks to my channel members for this particular update. They were able to help me flesh out several of the bugs, and they were also the inspiration for this new token configuration update.
Let's start making automations with GPT. So what I'm going to do is walk through 3 examples with you, and by the end, you should not only get a feel for how the AI intent nodes work, but you should also have a makeshift scrappy mini chatbot that can control parts of your home. This is assuming that you are using Home Assistant. First, let's make an automation that answers general knowledge questions. The user node here corresponds to the section here within OpenAI. Now you can place any question you like within this text box. In order for GPT to respond, you're going to need the OpenAI chat node. This node will put data in from the user node and combine it with the settings you provide within this particular node and send it to OpenAI. To learn more about what these properties are and how they work, you can look at the documentation on OpenAI's website. Now, when we run this automation, the response will look like this. So I provide the OpenAI response node to help make the object here a little bit more neater, so your results will look like this instead. Now in this particular example, we hard-coded the question in the user node, but oftentimes our automations will require a dynamic input. You can achieve this by using single curly braces. For the sake of example, I'm going to place the same question in the inject node. and then replace the contents within the user node with the same property name inside curly braces. Now we're going to create a brand new automation that can answer unique questions about your environment. Let's grab the inject node again, and as well as a template node. In the template node, we're going to keep things extremely simple by hard coding some kind of fake information about our system like lights and switches. Now, this template node does allow you to tap into Home Assistant to grab actual information from your system, but I want to keep this example pretty basic. Next, let's connect it to the system node. Now, the system node is responsible for this section of OpenAI's completion API. So in this node, we're going to give a little context, and just like we did in the user node, we can dynamically pull information in from the message object using single curly braces. Now our system node has a bit of context as well as the fake information we provided from the template node. Now I'm going to add a user node and dynamically pass a question from the inject node, the same as we did with our previous example. And like before, we also need the OpenAI chat node to combine and send the data to OpenAI. And then lastly, we will use the response node to get a cleaner response object to work with. Just a call out, here in the OpenAI chat, choose the model that you have access to. I have access to GPT-4, but not all of you may have this access, so use the latest model that you have access to. Your mileage will vary based off of the model that you're able to use. The last node that I want to touch on is called the tools node. This will help you get consistent, predictable responses from OpenAI. This is important if you want to run commands based off of responses that GPT give. If you can get predictable responses or responses in a predictable format, it makes it a lot easier to code for these type of things. Let's say we want an automation that can turn off and on lights within our Home Assistant environment. We can combine all the previous automations together with the tools node to accomplish this. If you want to understand how the JSON object should be constructed within the tools node, check OpenAI's documentation, as they will give you much better examples than I can. But for the sake of example, let's go over quickly the version that I have here. So this JSON is pretty straightforward. We have the name. This is just the name of the function. We're calling it light. It can be anything that you want it to be. This is the description of it. I believe OpenAI also reads the name and description in order to know what functions to run. And then these are the parameters or the things that we want OpenAI to give us back. In our case, we want an action, and it can be one of two things, turn on or turn off. Then we have the entities portion. So if we gave it 10 entities and it realizes that, okay, I said turn on the bathroom light, only one of those entities fit, it's going to pass us back an array of one entity ID. And then the lastly is just a response. It's going to say something along the lines of, I turned on this light, or I turned off the bathroom light, something to that effect. I find that just having required and listing it out ensures that they come back with something. Okay, so I'm going to update the template to reference a real light. I'm going to update the question to turn off that light. I'm using this function to simplify and reformat the payload. The call service dynamically referenced these attributes. Now, when I give a command without the tools node, here's how GPT responds. Now, with the tools node, here's how GPT responds. Because the response is now consistent and predictable, you can feed the answer to other nodes, like for instance the call service node, to trigger the intended action. Okay, so sorry for this cutaway. I wasn't planning on showing these next two nodes, but after some reconsideration, I think it may blow your minds and, more importantly, start a wave of new ideas. Now, this brings me to the last two nodes, the register intent node and the call intent node. These two nodes act very similar to the link in, link out nodes. For those of you not familiar with Node-RED or the link in, link out nodes, they allow you to connect flows or automations that are completely separate. Wait, hold on. They're actually more like
macros in Home Assistant, right? The same concept, the same way that you can have, let's say, one script that can call another script. The link in, link out nodes do the same thing, and the register intent and call intent nodes does the exact same, with some additions. The register intent node takes a name and description. So the name property will show in the call intent node. So when it is triggered, it will jump straight to the associated register intent node. So in its basic form, the register and call intent node basically act like triggers to any automation that you can create. But there's something special about these two nodes. They can be used to accent OpenAI's capabilities. Behind the scenes, whenever you create a register intent node, it's also added as a function to GPT that it can basically call. GPT uses the name as the name of the function. This is why there are specific rules around the naming of these registered nodes, and it uses the description to determine when this function can be called. The call intent can then be set to this, which basically allows it to call any registered intent node dynamically based on the payload. Now, if you're a nerd like me, you probably already see the possibilities this opens up, but just in case, let me say this out loud and clearly. These two nodes give GPT the ability to instantly trigger existing automations. Based on my testing, the more registered nodes you create, GPT can give kind of an inconsistent behavior, especially if you name and describe your nodes vaguely or they start to conflict with each other. So you have to be super clear. If you're getting strange results, or you simply don't want these nodes to affect GPT, you can select this checkbox, which will exclude it from GPT's options. Now, as you probably can guess, I use Node-RED for the majority of my automations, and I know that the majority of you use native Home Assistant to create your automations. Recently, I saw a video from Future Proof Homes showing a project from Jekyllman, at least that's how I think the name is pronounced or the username is pronounced. But the project is called Extended OpenAI Conversation, which not only gives you the ability to use GPT in the native Home Assistant environment, but it also lets you connect to local AI, which is a local LLM, which means you don't need to call the cloud for any of your AI needs. Well, I have to admit, I haven't used this particular project since my primary automation creation is through Node-RED, but I have read through some of the code and I'm a fan. I liked what I saw so much that I actually adopted some of their function definitions into my personal automations using the AI Intent plugin. Now you can check out the link in the description to see Future Proof Homes video, which goes into depth on how to set up and use this. I want to leave you with one last thing that I'm pretty sure will interest you. So when I created K, you can learn more about K here, just watch that video. I started developing these nodes to simplify a lot of the repetitive tasks and make it easier to connect to GPT. And the more that I developed, the more and more ideas came to me. So over the next few weeks, you'll see more videos from me that highlight different useful automations that leverage these nodes that I showed you in this video. Channel members get first access to a lot of these ideas and exclusive access to inspirational ideas that hit me in the moment. And they already experienced this last week with this voicemail idea. But if you want to support what I'm doing and gain access to these perks, feel free to follow this arrow and click the icon to join. Oh, and real quick, after talking with a few channel members about the Extended OpenAI Conversation project, one of the next things that I'm planning on exploring for AI Intent is adding in support for local AI. Oh yeah, this is going to be a fun year.